Hello and welcome. I'm Catalina Marchant Abreu and you're watching W News Extra, broadcasting live from the Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. Protests resume in Tehran as talks between Iran and the US are set for this week. Violence erupts across Mexico as the country's most wanted drug baron is killed during a military operation. Former British ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, has been arrested by UK police on suspicion of misconduct in public office during his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And British actor Robert Aramayo beats Hollywood's elite to win Best Actor at this year's BAFTAs. Iran may be ready to strike a deal with the United States, with talks set for Thursday, as protests resume in the capital city of Tehran. They follow threats of a military attack from President Trump, as U.S. forces are sent to the Middle East. Speaking earlier, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman blames the U.S. for mixed signals, saying talks were useless without results. Take a listen.
Any negotiation whose aim is to force one side to unilaterally accept the demands of the other is naturally bound to fail. At least in the case of Iran, such an approach will certainly yield no results. Contradictions and opposing, inconsistent positions taken by various American officials constitute a major obstacle in the course of the negotiations. I do not think anyone can turn this into a threat.
Meanwhile, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has said the president was questioning why Iran has not yet capitulated. Take a listen.
I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated. Why under this sort of pressure, with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do. And yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place. They've been enriching well beyond the number that you need for civil nuclear. It's up to 60%. They're probably a week away from having industrial grade bomb making material. And that's really dangerous.
To discuss this and all of today's stories, I'm joined in studio by Rawia Alami, senior presenter at Arabiya, and broadcaster Jono. Thank you both for joining us today. So we're going to start with you, Rawia. So a third round of indirect talks is scheduled for Thursday in Geneva. What's the latest out of the U.S.-Iran talks? What should we expect?
Well, first, let's establish that these, as you said, they are the third round of talks. They are happening against a backdrop of very heightened regional tensions and also a very high military buildup in the Gulf area, of course. Now, let's recap on the first two rounds before we talk about what do we expect of this third round. Now, for the first round, apparently Iran presented, or at least proposed, a three-step plan. According to this plan, it will temporarily roll back on enrichment levels in exchange for access to, of course, financial assets and oil exports. That's what happened in the first round. In the second round, both sides said that we had constructive engagement, and also they agreed on general guiding principles, especially when it comes to reducing Iran's nuclear activities under the UN nuclear watchdog. So that's what happened in the second round. Sticking points remain the same, that Iran still insists that it wants to enrich uranium, insists on its right of enriching uranium. And that is, of course, a central issue for US and Western concerns. Now, in these this round, the third round of talks that we're talking about now, that could happen or is supposed to happen on Thursday, both sides said that the focus will be first on reviewing the Iranian proposal, because Iran has been finalizing this proposal and said it will present it to the Americans during this round of negotiations. Also, maybe they're hoping that they can move from principles to text or textual language, basically to start drafting the language of a possible agreement. Would that happen? And that, of course, also they will consider or discuss sanctions, relief, partial, or whatever it is. Will that happen? Will we reach the stage that now they will be drafting the language of an agreement? Now that is left for, we will see, I suppose, after this next round of talks. Yet definitely these talks are considered crucial. From the American point of view, it is probably the last window, the last opportunity of diplomacy before a military strike. For Iran is under a lot of pressure internally because of the protests that happened in January. They're starting up again, and also internationally by the military buildup in the region.
It's going to be an important week in that sense.
Absolutely.
So, Jono, on the ground, we're seeing a second straight day of student protests that have also taken place across Tehran. So what more do we know about these protests just re-erupted?
So we know that January, as Rawia said, was the last time we saw protests on this scale as well. Now in Tehran and several other cities, there's been the largest student demonstrations that we've witnessed since that insurgence in January. So that crackdown at the time reportedly left thousands dead. We're hearing reports of mass arrests from that time as well. The protesting students it's exactly the same reasons as the last time: the economic hardship, the political repression that they're suffering from right now. And of course, it's all in the shadow of this nuclear-related tension, which continues as well. The US is hovering off the coastline while these talks that Rawia mentioned are continuing, and the rallies they're fragmented, but they are very significant. And we know that previously when we've had these rallies, it amounts to something more afterwards, and there still is that great civil unrest which is taking place within Iran. And even the threat of death or imprisonment does not seem to be deterring people from getting out there and protesting once again. So this nationwide movement has started in Iran. We're 2 days into this. It could be the start of a resurgence of the protests once again. That is a very big possibility. And the US will now be looking at this closely, because let's remember Donald Trump had encouraged people to get back on the streets. He said, do not let this deter you. Get back out on the streets, protest once again. If the US takes the same attitude, I guess, is what we're looking at happening again, people may feel, well, they're so close to us. Potentially we've got the backing of the US right now, with them being so close, with warships, fighter jets, all just 150 miles off the coastline. This is a really pivotal moment, and that's why those talks are also important as we head closer to the weekend. Unlikely we would see any US strike before those third round of talks have completed, because that would be a fundamental flaw in what's the point if we're going to have discussions, although they've done it previously, to go in and to strike at that stage. So I think we'll wait till the third round of these talks are over. These, as Rawia said, are going to be pivotal, and then we'll see what happens next. But it looks like these strikes are continuing. Strangely, we're not getting as many pictures and videos this time around as we did from the first round of strikes, because they are much smaller in their number, and probably because of the fear of repercussions from the authorities. People are holding back on sharing this information. And of course, we're still in somewhat of an internet blackout in certain parts of Iran as well, which is causing less of those video footage to be publicly shared, which is why we're not seeing as much of it at the moment.
Exactly. And you touched on this. What do you think, Rawia, would be the Iranian response now if these protests do continue, considering there's negotiations coming up and also considering this huge military buildup that we didn't have the first time around? Do you think they're going to respond just as harshly as the first time, or they're going to go a bit calmer?
Well, look, Iran is dealing with a lot of caution with the American threats, especially now after all the military buildup, which is apparently the biggest since the Gulf War in 2003. So there is a massive military buildup in the Gulf. of course, the objective of it is to create pressure so that that pressure can be leveraged in negotiations, and also keeping this, the shadow of a military strike hovering over the Iranian regime. So Iran knows that the United States is serious and definitely dealing with those threats, especially because those threats started when the regime harshly cracked down on these protests. So they know that the Americans are serious. Having said that, I do not think they are going to hesitate to face and try to put an end to these protests, that for sure. They cannot risk appearing also weak in front of their own people. So therefore, definitely these demonstrations, if they get bigger, and we might definitely see another surge of a crackdown like what happened in January. Maybe with more caution, but definitely they're not going to let them just slide.
Because, Jono, you mentioned there were less images coming out this time around, and I think it's important to remind people what role is Starlink playing here during these crackdowns or protests or resurgence. What images are coming out, what's not?
So we heard this the last time from Elon Musk when the January riots took place, and he said he will make Starlink accessible to people on the ground in Iran. And the rise of that is exposing Iran's domestic pressure and also the information control that's actually taking place. Of course, the benefit of Starlink is that it will allow internet to whoever has a device capable of receiving it. The deterrent is the fact that it carries harsh penalties if you are caught with anything that is a Starlink device, receiving device. There are harsh penalties for that. Secondarily, some kind of a Faraday cage system which is being used on the ground in Iran, which seems to be able to block the signal, even though these are satellite signals for internet, but you must be in receipt of an actual device to receive Starlink internet, which would allow them to upload videos in real time. Now, we're seeing less, again, as I said, they are smaller protests, but also we are now hearing reports from on the ground that they have found a way to be able to block the signal from Starlink, which means we know there's an internet blackout that's been rolling in Iran since January, and we've had periods of up to 2 weeks where there's been zero internet capabilities for people. So even if they've got access to Starlink right now, they're being very limited in relation to what they're able to share. How it's going to play a difference to the negotiations? Likely not. How it's going to make a difference in the world stage? It may allow us to see in real time what's happening with these protests and get information from the people who are out there on the streets actually protesting and find out what it is that they're looking for, and also what bite back they're getting from the authorities. Because, of course, the last time we heard all of the echoes of the mass killings, we heard the echoes of the mass jails, the mass imprisonments. So we need to find out what's actually happening on the ground there. And when there's no actual internet action and service, that's a really difficult thing to try and achieve.
It'll be hard to know, if ever, but this is a developing story, no doubt, this week. We will move on to another story right now. Flights were canceled and schools shut in Mexico after violence erupted in the streets following the killing of the country's most wanted drug baron, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. He was the leader of a drug cartel, Jalisco New Generation, and died during an operation seeking his arrest. Cars have been burnt and roads blocked as the cartel reaped revenge for the drug lord's death. So here's how residents reacted.
Look, now we're scared. We only go out when it's necessary because people don't know whether to go out or what to do. We have peace of mind that at least we're not so close to them. It's good that they're finishing with all these organizations, but there's fear of these situations that are happening now. You don't know how to react or what to do at these moments.
Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said the country was more calm today and that all highway blockades across Mexico had been cleared. Take a listen.
We woke up today without any blockades on any of the highways, and practically all activity has been restored. Today, there is more calm, and there is government. There are armed forces, there is a security cabinet, and there is a lot of coordination. So you can rest assured that peace, security, and normality in the country are being safeguarded.
So, Rawia, what exactly led to this eruption of violence in Mexico, of course, besides the capture of the cartel boss? But apparently there was a big telenovela story that led to the capture of El Mencho.
Yes, I'll tell you about it in a minute. But the entire thing, if you saw the footage, it's like a war zone in there. But the violence started and it was sparked by a Mexican security operation targeting El Mencho. El Mencho, as you mentioned in your introduction, is a longtime leader of a cartel that he established himself, and it's called the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. It's one of the biggest cartels in Mexico, and also one of the most militarized cartel. It's kind of different than other cartels in the country, but it is definitely the biggest. What happened was that apparently the authorities were tipped as to his whereabouts by a romantic partner of his. I don't know the exact details. There wasn't much, information about exactly how, whether she, volunteered the information or if she was questioned and forced to give such, his whereabouts. But that's what happened. Clashes erupted in a place called, or a town called Tapalpa, in Jalisco. El Mencho was seriously injured, and I think he was flown on a helicopter to Mexico City, yet he died on the way before reaching Mexico City or the hospital. But the thing is that his death triggered a massive retaliation from his cartel members. As we can see, a lot of, usually this cartel is extremely militarized. They have heavy weapons. So the scenes that you've seen on the streets in Mexico was their way, which is quite a known way that they use usually whenever they are targeted. Their retaliation is extremely violent, and it's spanned over many, many different states in Mexico.
That's right. And Jono, what was the reaction from obviously the government and the locals who are caught in this crossfire, not even just local tourists? We saw images in the airport. So
yeah,
what has the reaction been?
As you saw even there, Catalina, from what you said, is the locals had been living in fear and continue to be, by the way, because 25 members of the National Guard have also been killed since these retaliations have now started. So the government has said, right, we need extra security measures. A code red in Jalisco has been announced as well, which is suspension of schools. Public transport has been cancelled, and I believe that is gradually returning now. And military deployment, which is to try and restore order, which, as the President of Mexico has now said, that is in place, but the blockades have been removed, 250 roadblocks that were there, burning vehicles as well. And we can make the assumption that this is from members of the cartel, who number in the thousands, by the way. There's up to 10,000 members of this cartel who operate through several different states and cities who are armed. And that's 10,000 armed members of the cartel alone. And it's not a small operation by any stretch of the imagination. Around 20 different bank branches have been also targeted. The number of arrests seem to be quite small in comparison to the level of the madness that's going on right now. 25 arrests is all that's been listed. But we're talking about a guy who is a big, big player. We flashed up on the screen, FBI's most wanted, where he sat for many years, $15 million as a price tag on his head. So the military National Guard there have been trying to crack down on cartels, but this is one of the biggest ones. It's looking at things like fentanyl labs, chemical imports, which is what they are responsible for as well. And as a result of that, we're now seeing this crackdown. No one has claimed responsibility for his killing just yet. And as Rawia said, it seems like it's the Mexican forces who may be responsible. But you're dealing with a cartel who have an arsenal of assault rifles, who have machine guns, who have sniper rifles, who have armoured vehicles that are on the street called narco tanks. That's theirs. And they even have rocket launchers and grenade launchers. This cartel is akin to an army. It's a huge operation to try and take it down. Because on the surface, you think it's one member of the cartel, it's the head of the cartel. Why has it caused such consternation? Why is there such a backlash? This is the reason. This cartel has got deep roots and is a big, big player in terms of exports, certainly to the US market, when it comes to illegal narcotics.
And
if I may add something, actually, you're absolutely right, Jono. And what's really interesting, how militarized this this cartel is. We're talking about heavy weaponry. I mean, rocket launchers. I read that apparently a few years ago there were other clashes between the cartel and the authorities. And in order for El Mencho to escape, they shot down a helicopter. A Mexican state helicopter, by the government, with the authorities. They shot it down with rocket launchers so that he can get away.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
they have drones. They've drones that they've said the drones even can drop explosives as well. Yes. I mean, yeah, he has been heading up.
So he has a mini army. We're talking about 10,000 maybe armed men.
This is what they're saying, armed, but then they reckon that there's countless collaborators, there's supporting roles that are in there, there's local cells which operate as factions as well. This guy has been running. This is the definition of the word cartel. Cartels to me always indicate it's a relatively small operation with international links, which may number in the hundreds. We are talking a city's worth of people who are out there as part of this cartel.
Exactly. This cartel I'm reading here actually reaches across 40 different countries. And this is my question that you guys 40 countries. And you guys already answered, because how powerful is the Jalisco New Generation cartel really? Very, extremely. But looking at this from an outside, because violence now has reached 18 plus Mexican states, including tourist hubs, as we saw. And we're also entering this new chapter of perhaps national insecurity in the country. So, Jono, what does this mean? And also for you, Rawia, you can answer later. What does this mean for Mexico's global image, especially with the World Cup coming up so shortly? Would you be comfortable going to Mexico right now?
Look, I think it's certainly something that the US needs to, and I do think that they're going to require some of the assistance of the Drug Federation Authority in the US to get involved in this, because without things like a crackdown on those fentanyl labs and the chemical compound labs that they have in operation, without stronger border inspections and port controls, it is going to be somewhat of a losing battle. There's, of course, anti-corruption, policing reforms that need to take place in Mexico before this is, and that's not a...
It's a short time.
It's a short time. It's not an overnight policy. Social programs to reduce the cartel recruitment that's in there as well. And intelligence sharing, cooperation between the US and Mexico in order to curb this and curtail this. We've heard Trump's administration time and time again say that they are in a war on drugs, and fentanyl, the epidemic which is taking place in the US, is now at breaking point. And this seems like it may be one of the big ones. It may be something that's like this, which interrupts it enough to have the US get involved and then take a stand with Mexico to do this. But are we going to see that before the World Cup? I mean, that's 3 months away. It's a lot of work to do in 3 months. But this is an interruption, and maybe it was the interruption that Mexico needed to get things on the right track.
Or is it the time globally, or is it the good timing to actually create this violence in Mexico? Do you think it's going to continue, or it's going to be able to be contained?
Well, I think the Mexican government is leveraging on the general American mood, or at least the American administration's mood, which, as Jono said correctly, has been at war with, narco drug cartels. That's what we've seen. I mean, what happened in Venezuela was under this pretext.
Exactly.
So therefore, the Mexican government is going along in that direction. I think the fact that there is only 3 months left for the World Cup sort of puts extra pressure on the Mexican government, prompting it probably to do something now in order to get the scene set for such an international event. I don't know whether it was prompted by this, but it looks like it's the timing is quite favorable now.
We'll have to see another front on foreign policy for the U.S., that is. So stay right there. We're going to move to another story right now. That is, Asian economies are scrambling to respond to a global 15% tariff set by the United States. President Trump announced the interim move after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down his tariff program last week. India has delayed planned talks with Washington, while South Korea is warning exporters of stiffer competition and uncertainty about refunds. Chris Gilbert reports.
South Korea is moving quickly to address the fallout. Government officials gathered in Seoul on Monday after Washington imposed a temporary 15% tariff on imports following the Supreme Court's block on Trump's tariff program.
If this global tariff of 15% is imposed, changes will be expected in the relative competitive conditions of our companies. The private sector needs to work together to secure our companies' export competitiveness and diversify our markets.
The stakes are high for export-dependent Korea. The auto, manufacturing, chip and pharmaceutical industries are exposed to any change in trade conditions. Seoul says semiconductor exports are not subject to the new duties, but uncertainty remains over possible additional measures and whether tariffs already paid under previous higher rates may be refunded. The government says it will keep negotiating to limit the damage.
The government will continue to engage in constructive talks with the United States so that the impact on our companies is kept to a minimum.
India is taking a cautious approach. A planned trade delegation to Washington has been postponed, a sign of the unpredictability of the situation. Officials had hoped to finalize an interim deal to reduce steep US tariffs on Indian exports.
We are preparing a formal draft agreement. We estimate that the formal agreement will be signed by mid-March.
India supplies the US with seafood, agricultural products, leather goods, medicines, textiles and diamonds. Any change in tariffs could ripple across millions of jobs, and officials say uncertainty is cause for a pause. No new date has been set for talks. With Washington signaling that further tariffs could come, Asian economies are bracing for a period of instability. Chris Gilbert, Arabiya English.
Store it in your body.
Former British ambassador to the US Peter Mandelson has been arrested by police on suspicion of misconduct in public office during his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So Rawia, give us the latest. He's been arrested. What's the latest on this story?
Yes, well, a lot of things are happening in the UK after we've seen former Prince Andrew arrested and then released after a few hours. We have now former British ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, that we've heard his name, we've seen news about him in the UK, in the US, all across international media in the past few months. Since he was fired from his position as the UK ambassador to the United States in September. Of course, he was arrested on the suspicion of misconduct in public office because of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. There are suspicions that he gave sensitive information, classified information, that he got because of his position as the ambassador to Jeffrey Epstein, and that is, of course, illegal. So therefore, he's been arrested by the London police for questioning. We don't know if the same scenario is going to repeat itself as it was with former Prince Andrew, that he would be released after a few hours. We're going to have to wait and see. But this is basically what happened.
As they always say, follow the money, right, Jono?
Well, it seems this is a follow-up, isn't it? I mean,
will he get out soon?
Well, we don't know the answer to that. But with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, we knew the scenario behind it. We knew that he was arrested, that they were conducting searches and investigations of his home or homes. Similar has been happening with Peter Mandelson. So officers detained him at home and then carried out searches while examining whether any confidential information was improperly shared during his time in government. So this is the exact same accusation or the exact same questioning line which they're going down the route from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It is misconduct in public office, which, as we've said before, is a very, very difficult thing to prove. Mandelson, of course, has vehemently denied any wrongdoing. He is not accused of any sexual offences. He remains under investigation as police continue gathering that evidence. And so it will be a case of wait and see. They will be entitled to 24 hours where they can detain him while they are questioning him. Okay. And at such a point, they will either need to make a charge or to release him pending investigation, which is the line that we heard released from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So I think we will have a similar situation here. And of course, depending on what those allegations are and what Mandelson, what they discover in his home, will be the decider on what happens next in this investigation. But it does seem like it's part of the same operation, whatever that operation is. We know there's 16 different members of the police forces in the UK, 16 different, completely different outlets that are involved in information that has been shared from the Epstein files. We don't know what exactly those are. We don't know if they're in relation to sexual misconduct or public office misconduct, but there are 16 different departments which are currently investigating the outcome of the Epstein files.
We will know soon. But does this remind you of, because tell us a bit more about the details of the operation. Does it remind you of Operation U-Tree a while back?
So I guess if you look back, and that was Operation U-Tree was 2012 when they had this, and this was the one that had the revelations about Jimmy Savile that was in there. And we saw convictions from Rolf Harris, Max Clifford, Gary Glitter. They were all in this as well. And what we saw there was a mass, and it was kept very quiet at the time, and it was afterwards we found out this is Operation U-Tree, this is what it was. It was done in order to get information from these high-profile people who'd been accused and later charged of sexual misconduct. And I think what we're seeing here, and obviously it's very different, and both Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and also Peter Mandelson have denied any wrongdoing at this time in relation to the charges against them, but it is in relation to public office. So it is a multi-disciplinary approach towards this from multiple different units within the Met Police and potentially other police outfits as well, who are now collaborating together in order to try to find something that will stick in terms of the charges that they may have against Peter Mandelson and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. So it's a case of trying to collect the evidence, gathering that evidence, investigation pending, and then we'll find out the outcome of this. But it could be 2 years before we see any conviction if there is any evidence of any wrongdoing as a result of these searches, which we know are ongoing at the moment.
Exactly, a bit soon, but we will know soon about these investigations. But I think we can agree that the UK is showing a good example of accountability.
I have to say that even in the
US.
media, there's a lot of articles compare the UK to the US when it comes to the Epstein scandal, on how the UK government has been dealing with it compared to the American administration and the White House. And they all were saying that it seems that, you know, there's definitely a little bit more accountability in the UK, while the scandal is causing less damage in the US, let's put it that way.
We'll see the ramifications. Stay right there as we move on to another story, a bit on the lighter side. So Hollywood came to London last night for this year's BAFTA Awards. A-listers Leonardo DiCaprio and Timothée Chalamet walked the red carpet before the ceremony, both nominated for Best Actor. But it was British actor Robert Aramayo who won the award for this role in I Swear, and Irish actress Jessie Buckley who took away Best Actress for her part in Hamnet. Take a listen to them both.
Robert Aramayo from I Swear.
Last time I was at BAFTA, I dropped the award, so hopefully this goes better. Thank you so much for this. It means the world to me. I can't believe that. Thank you.
The BAFTA goes to Jessie Buckley.
This is nuts. This really does belong to the women, past, present, and future, that have taught me and continue to teach me how to do it differently. You are all just radical, and you're doing it for the naughty girls, and I'm in awe of all your incredible performances. Thank you.
So, Jono, what did you make of this this year's BAFTA ceremony?
A bit of a standout ceremony this year. I think it's been nice. There's been breakout moments from people we've not heard of before, which is nice to take it away from the people who always win the awards. Emotional wins, as we saw there, Robert Aramayo, which was a big surprise, none more so than to Leonardo DiCaprio, who didn't look overly impressed. Timothée Chalamet, normally, you'd have said he's in for a win there, but no. He made history by taking the Rising Star and Best Actor. And Jessie Buckley as well. I mean, a powerful Best Actress victory from her, a powerful speech that she made afterwards as well, sharing the award with the other strong women who she took example from in the room when she was launching into her acting career. But I got to be honest with you, and I haven't seen Robert Aramayo, so I can't comment on his movie, I Swear. But from her point of view, in Hamnet, fantastic job, amazing portrayal of William Shakespeare's wife, and it's a wonderful movie, and I think it was a very well deserved. So one battle after another was the big dominator of this as well, multiple major awards. And we had several other wins for people who... Sean Penn was the one for Best Supporting Actor, but big wins for the movie Sinners as well, which did very well. So a lot of movies that I thought, these were good or different or unusual. It's the British Oscars, really, isn't it? So it's nice to see some actors and winners that were not tipped to be the winners, which I like to see. A bit of a surprise element.
It's a different perspective. Rawia, there was also the Britain royals, Kate and William, who made a special appearance at the awards. So what was the reaction online, but also in person, to their appearance. What's the
Their
word on the
attendance,
street?
to be honest, definitely caused an online buzz and media buzz. But the reactions were divided between sympathy and criticism. Sympathy for the couple because of what the royal family is going through because of the Epstein scandal. But at the same time, criticism also, or the others were criticizing the couple for attending, that it's inappropriate at this time as the royal family is going through this crisis. However, definitely it is the first, it's a significant appearance because it is the first appearance for the royal couple since the arrest and release of former Prince Andrew. Of course, it casts a long shadow on the event. But as I said, the reactions were divided between criticism and sympathy with the royal couple. But also, there were a lot of analysis that was done on social media and online of the body language of Prince or Kate and William. Apparently, their body language was described as on edge and tense. They're saying that, the experts are saying that there were subtle signs of anxiety. And some of the commentators were saying that it seems that they were trying too hard to look unbothered by what was happening, the scandal or the crisis surrounding the royal family. However, of course, the situation was further complicated by, when Prince William was asked whether he had seen the movie that won so many awards, Hamnet. He admitted that he hadn't seen it, which sort of caused some criticism. Some people were saying that it's disrespectful for the filmmakers. Others were saying because he cited that he was not in the right frame of mind or in a calm state of mind to watch such an emotional movie. There was also sympathy, with Prince William because of what the royal family was going through. So yeah, there were mixed reactions.
Not to mention he's the president, right?
He is the president of the BAFTA. But I have to say also that apparently a lot of memes and posts and so much content on the attendance of Prince William and Kate to the BAFTA, basically. It's
they always stir some type of reaction. Well, it's that time of the show where Jono and Rawia have chosen two of their quirkiest stories of the day. Jono, why do Gen Zs have a driving phobia out of the many, right? That's not the only one they have.
It's good news for the slightly out of Gen Zs like we are.
There'll be less people on the road.
There'll be less people on the road because Gen Z are, almost half of them said that they are scared of driving. They avoid parallel parking altogether. This is the new generation so there will be lots of parallel parking spaces available for us to park
We're all
in.
Obligated to do it. We didn't have the choice.
I mean, yeah. Are we good at it? Maybe not. But do we hate it? Probably. But we're not scared of it, I wouldn't say. Motorway driving is another one when you have to merge into traffic in the motorway. Gen Z don't like that. Normal, but not okay. Hill starts, that's if you drive a manual car and you need to know how to do a hill start. I got to be honest, I think I've driven a manual car twice in my life, so I don't know how the hill start thing works. Surely you have not.
I did.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. I haven't driven a manual car for like 20 years, maybe.
But it triggers panic attacks, which I think is a very Gen Z thing to say, isn't it? That gives me a panic attack.
You'd be rolling back and going up and rolling
Anything.
back.
And the big one, and to be fair, I think I can feel this one as well, panic attacks are most often caused in Gen Z by the thought of having to change a tyre. And I do think that is something that's very daunting for somebody who's never learned that.
Even for someone from a different generation.
Yeah, so I think it's a tricky thing to try and navigate changing a tyre as well. But they're having full-on meltdowns behind the wheel of the car. And people are, even driving instructors are saying the new generation who are coming on board say they feel triggered by a lot more than people did previously, whereas before, things that trigger you, including getting hit by another car, and that's about it.
We had tough love. We were just put on the road, right? Just do it.
Drive. The new generation, unfortunately, they're not doing it. They're going to have to be heavily medicated to drive the car, which is counterproductive. So I feel like less people driving. They're resorting instead to public transport and finding ways to get around the urban areas instead of actually having to drive the car, which is understandable.
That's more eco-friendly.
Gen Z.
That's very strange because my son is Gen Z. He's actually turning 19 next week. And the moment he was allowed to start learning how to drive, he was nagging us constantly. He couldn't wait.
He wanted to start driving. I also wanted to start driving. It was my independence.
He did it, and he got his license.
I think it depends what country you're in. Was there a country that this was done
They
in?
specifically had spoken about people from the UK and the US.
Okay.
However, I do think areas where public transport is now better, like when I was growing
Yeah.
up, public transport was almost non-existent where I lived, so that car was the form of independence that you needed. But I feel like if you live in a city and you're an urban dweller and public transport is feasible and it's usable, I think it's probably less of a concern.
Easier,
for you to have a car.
And not just that, I think also in certain cities, like for example in London, it's ridiculous to have a car because you need a place to park it.
Yeah.
There's not even space for a
there's no
parallel park.
space.
They don't have to worry about it.
Doesn't make sense to have a car.
I think it's on both ends of the spectrum. So Gen Z, but also my dad, who I think is boomer, I think I could be wrong, C75. So he also has panic attacks about driving the car, motorways, and he looks for an imaginary brake on his side of the car when I'm driving all the time. So
No way.
It happens on both sides. Too young and too old, they are scared of driving.
We're here for them.
Yeah, we'll drive. We'll
support the drive.
The double park.
Now, Rawia, this is something that's been for a long time. Why are cats more independent than dogs?
Well, it's a cliche. I mean, it's, we've all thought whoever had cats and dogs would realize the difference between them. I'm one of these people. I've had cats for
both.
15 years, and then I switched. I had a dog, and I can see a huge difference. For me, at least, I know there are a lot of cat lovers, and they would probably feel different, but for me, it's much more rewarding having a dog. And now there are studies, scientific studies, that prove confirming my theory, that I felt I was working for my cat, while my dog was like my son. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. Apparently, yes, cats. The study shows that cats are much more independent. They don't need emotional support from their owners, unlike dogs who definitely they need their owners for comfort, for emotional support, for that sense of security. Cats would get that comfort from a stranger.
From anyone.
From anybody.
No loyalty.
As much as its own owner.
Whatsoever.
So, yes. So definitely now we know for a fact scientifically, if you're a cat lover,
every cat owner knows.
You should know
Jono,
that,
do you have cats?
You work for the cats.
I have.
Do you have dogs?
I had a very loyal cat before who needed my attention, I felt. But she had
an exception.
She had car conditions and stuff, so she was an issue. But then I've got another one who I see maybe 3 times a week. He might grace me with his presence. I don't even know if he lives in the house or not. I don't think we needed a study or money to be invested to be told that cats are independent. That is a waste of time.
No, I mean, I used to, at the time when I had cats, I used to leave and I used to live alone. And I used to go to work I had a 12-hour shift. And I would leave the cat.
Yeah.
That would be fine. But leaving a dog for 12 hours alone in the house without somebody to walk them, or that's not.
Yeah.
You'd come back and you'd find.
I think cats don't need us. We're just a nice addition.
Yeah, that's
to their
why
life.
I felt
That's
I
it.
was working for the cat.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get them to be their slave. Well, that's all from us on W News Extra. Thanks to our guest, Rawia Alami, senior presenter at Arabiya, and our broadcaster, as always, Jono Hayes, here in the studio joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on X. GNT is coming up next. Goodbye.